for all of us. It's about predicting where the consumer is going and getting half of it right.
One of the things we want to do is create ads that don't suck.
Embracing change creates great possibility.
I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today.
Today on the show, I've got my first repeat guest, Bob Hoffman. He was the author of Marketers Are From Mars and Consumers Are From New Jersey, and his most recent book, BadMen, How Advertising Went From a Minor Annoyance to a Major Menace. Today with Bob, we talk a little bit about the impetus behind his book, what he talks about in there, and who the enemies are today in regards to ad tech and tracking and surveillance marketing, as he calls it. It's a point of view I think everyone needs to hear these days, because there's not many contrarian points of view in the world. We also take a little diversion, and I hope you like it. We talk a little bit about capitalism, developed markets, and will they collapse in our lifetime, as well as income inequality, which has been a theme that's come up a couple conversations recently I've been having. So I hope you enjoy and get something out of this, and I'd love to hear from you. Send me a note at info@atomck.com or tweet me at abhart. Well, Bob, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
So I want to start this interview out with a question I haven't asked you before, but it's one of my new favorites.
Okay.
What experience of your past defines or makes up who you've become today?
Oh, boy. Oh, I know. I was 12 years old, and Isabel Torazzi said to me, and I quote, "Get the fuck away from me, you creep." And it had a profound effect and impact on me for the rest of my life. No, seriously, I'd say it was my family. My mother dealt with very difficult hardships, but she remained wonderful and she had a sense of humor. And my entire family were pretty street smart. We all lived within a block of each other, all my aunts and uncles and cousins, and the vibe in the family was very skeptical of authority. And they had a very sensitive, what I would call bullshit radar. And if you said something that was pompous or disingenuous, you got a healthy dose of scorn. And it wasn't always verbal scorn. They'd just look at you, like, who the hell do you think you are? Talking like that. And I think that has stayed with me for the remainder of my life. It kind of defined a little bit about who I am and what I am today, I guess.
I think so. I think it says a lot. So the last time you were on, it was episode 36 for listeners out there. You said, what drives you is making marketers uncomfortable. And I'm going to paraphrase, and to make them think. So yeah. I'm assuming that that's still driving you today. Why is that so important?
It's more important now than ever. There's so much confusion in the marketing world. There's so much baloney. There are so many ways to throw away a marketing budget on silly fantasies. I mean, if you spend your time online, you go to like LinkedIn or any marketing content site, and you believe the BS that you're reading, you're going to get into trouble. And it's important that I don't know, what sphere am I in? The commentary sphere. Get marketers to think a little more deeply about what they're doing and to question what they're doing, rather than going along with the typical stuff that we read and hear.
Well, so your latest book, BadMen, How Advertising Went From a Minor Annoyance to a Major Menace.
Yeah.
So what's up with the men, bad men?
Oh, the men. I deal with that hang on, let me get the book. I have it here. Here we are. Yeah, so I say, finally, I want to apologize for the title. I stipulate that advertising is no longer a men's club and that bad men only covers half the landscape. But bad men and women, while technically a more accurate description of reality, is such a cringe-inducing title that I could not in good conscience inflict it on you. Nonetheless, I'm happy to acknowledge that in the advertising industry today, women have proven themselves to be equally irresponsible to their male counterparts. Kudos all around. So that's my apology for a bad title. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Well, I was wondering, just based on where advertising started, it was a men's club for a long
Oh,
time.
yeah, it sure was. Yeah, when I started, it was.
Yeah, we probably deserve more of the blame, I'm guessing. Anyway.
Yeah, there's no question that we do.
What was the impetus for this new book?
The impetus for this new book, without being too pompous and having my family look down at me in scorn, for the first time in my life, maybe I did something unselfishly in writing this book. This book is something that I really feel strongly about. I think we are in danger in free societies with all the data that's being collected about us. I mean, we used to worry about totalitarian governments, that they would have information on us that we didn't know about, that they would be following us and seeing what we're doing all the time and know who we're talking to and what we're talking about. And this was considered the exact opposite of what we wanted free societies to be. And now we're having that, but it's not the government that's doing it, it's the marketing industry. They know what we do, they know where we're going, they know who we talk to, they're following us everywhere we go, and they have secret files on us that we don't know about that influence our lives in ways that aren't really obvious to us, but that affect our lives. And I think it's very dangerous for individuals, first of all, for our privacy and our security, and second of all, for free societies and democratic societies in general. It's not a healthy thing for us to be followed around like this. And the book is going to cost me money. It's not going to make me money because I know I've already lost a few speaking gigs based upon what I've written in the book. But I think it's an important subject, and I don't think we're really dealing with it very well. And I don't think there's enough recognition of this problem.
I hope it doesn't cost you any more money. I think it's a point of view that needs to be heard.
Yeah, I think you're right. But look, I know of 2 conferences that canceled me because of this already. And who knows how many have canceled me that I don't know about, that were considering hiring me and didn't. So it's a controversial subject, and it's a subject that I am hoping gets more public exposure.
Well, I know this tracking is a big issue you talk
Big
about.
issue.
Do you think people care? I hope they do. But when I say people walking down the street.
Yeah, I don't think they care enough. I think a lot of people have taken for granted that their privacy is already gone. And this is very dangerous. We shouldn't accept this. This can lead to appalling mischief. I hope that I can have, or people in the industry can have some effect on educating the public on what's at stake here.
Right. It's funny that you're seeing cancellations from time to time, or a couple here that you know of. I mean, you're making a case for them to self-regulate themselves and save the industry, I think.
But you know what? The industry has proven itself to be too immature and too irresponsible and too incompetent to self-regulate. And I'm not a fan of bureaucracy, and I hate to say this, but it's time for government to step in and institute some degree of control. I think it's obvious that the advertising and marketing industries are not capable of anything remotely approaching a reasonable degree of restraint. We had our chances and we blew them, and it's time for something else. We're not capable of doing it.
You talked about the tracking, the files that they're keeping on us. Yeah. Who's to blame for where we are?
I blame you, Alan.
I should have anticipated that one. Yeah.
First of all, I think it's essential that advertising survive. Virtually everything that we like about the web is supported by advertising. But we have to find a new model of online advertising that is not based on tracking, it's not based on surveillance marketing, and it does not subvert our right to privacy, and it does not disgust the public as the current model of online advertising does, and it does not support fake news and undermine our confidence in our news media. and it allows quality online publishers to make a fair profit from their good work. And this is just another way of saying we need to get rid of tracking. Everything we hate about the web, if you pick up the rock and look under it, there sits tracking. To some degree, everyone in the ecosystem is to blame. Criminals are to blame, and ad tech is to blame, and the duopoly of Google and Facebook is to blame. But I think the blame falls most heavily on the advertising and marketing industries. We've turned the web into a nonstop marketing machine. And advertising used to be about imparting information, but now it's equally about collecting information. You know, we call this information data, but data is usually just a pleasanter term for personal, private information about us that's being collected 24 hours a day, nonstop, and traded and sold and exploited by the marketing industry without our knowledge and without our consent.
What do you think the answer is? I mean, where do we start? If marketers weren't willing to spend their money on it, would it be there?
Yeah, the first thing we have to do is end tracking and surveillance marketing and develop a new model of ad tech that doesn't rely on tracking. Until we do that, nothing is really going to change. Like I said, almost all the aspects of online advertising that we find repellent, you can trace back to the three-headed monster of tracking and surveillance marketing and ad tech. All the half measures, ad blockers and all that stuff, it doesn't deal with the core problem. Those are just Band-Aids. When tracking is ended, that's when a decent form of online advertising will evolve. Right now, online advertising is so repellent. We have 600 million devices in the world equipped with ad blockers. That's going to do nothing but harm the advertising industry. And it's going to continue. It's growing double digits every year, these ad blockers. And that's because the current model of online advertising is repellent, and people hate it. We're not doing ourselves any favors by continuing down this path. Now, the good news is the European Union in May is going to implement something called the GDPR and may implement something called the e-privacy regulation, which will severely limit the ability of online marketers and online media to collect information about us without our knowledge and permission. And this is going to have, I believe, a major impact on the way online advertising and tracking is currently going. Here in the States, we don't have anything like it yet, and I doubt that we will have anything like it under the current administration. But this is a door that needs to be kicked in, and the European Union is kicking it in a little, and I believe there is enough information now and enough buzz in the world about these issues that maybe here in the States we will start to realize that this is an important issue for us to look at.
What advice would you give marketers listening to the show today?
Oh, that's easy. Buy my book.
Well, I agree with that.
That's easy. The advice is be skeptical. Don't believe anyone. Everything people are telling you about ad fraud and about viewability, it's all lies. It's all baloney. Nobody knows. You need to verify everything you're being told, and you stay away from anything that smells like programmatic. That is just fraud after fraud after fraud. You need to really read up. If you're a marketer, you have to read some of the contrarian, if you will, voices about this. Because what you're being told by the people who are selling this stuff to you and the people who are supported by the people who are selling this stuff to you, in other words, the trade publications and stuff, it's not reliable. It's simply not reliable. You need read what some of the real experts on ad fraud and viewability have to say, not what the people who are selling you cybersecurity have to say. Read what the independent experts have to say, and you'll be shocked.
It's good advice. So I do want to step back from BadMen, the book, but we'll link to the book in the show notes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, well, and I think everyone should be buying a copy.
Yeah, or two. You got to read it twice, and you need a second copy to read it twice the right way. Yeah.
Well, and it's a quick read. It's
It
a
is.
quick read, too. I am glad to say that I was your first Amazon verified review, and I gave you 5 stars.
Well, and you're an excellent person. I congratulate you on your good taste.
Well, I love knowledge, and I love hearing other points of view, so it's a
Great.
point of view everyone needs.
Thanks.
I want to try to take a twist, and hopefully the listeners like this,
A
but
twist. Okay.
get away from marketing for a minute. I'm becoming increasingly worried about society.
Yeah.
I'm really concerned that in my lifetime, or God forbid, my daughter's lifetime, in one of our lifetimes, we're going to see a developed market collapse. Just with all the things that are going on in the world. Do you think I'm crazy, or what do you think about that?
By a developed market collapse, you mean the Western civilization?
Exactly.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts on that. First, I'm deeply concerned about the concentration of power in too few hands. And I'm going to relate this back to the web. The web was supposed to mitigate against that, and it was supposed to be a significant democratizing factor in our lives. And to my mind, it has had the exact opposite effect. Look at the power of Google and Facebook. We need to get our heads out of our behinds and realize that the utopian fantasies about the web have all come crashing down. And the web has not been a democratizing factor. It has helped the oligarchs concentrate power. And it's in too few hands. And we need governments that are not bought by these people and aren't afraid to take on the monopolists. It's worrisome to me. And it's true in the advertising industry. The consolidation of the ad industry has been a disaster for everyone except Wall Street. Clients have been hurt. The employees of agencies have been hurt. The media have been hurt. And the public has been hurt. The ad industry, I think, is in the middle of a slow motion nervous breakdown, and no one knows how to save. And it's been, to a large degree, it has been the result of all the concentration of power in a few people's hands in the advertising industry. Now, to get to the bigger question of whether we're going to have a developed market collapse, the answer is absolutely. If you go back in history, there has never been a system of government or a type of government that has ever survived. Every government in history that I know about has at some point failed, been replaced by something else. And for us to think that our system of government is somehow exempt from that, I think is delusional. What reason do we believe that our system of government is different from every other system of government that has existed in the history of mankind and has fallen? I don't know what reason we would have to believe that. I certainly don't believe it. You know, they've all been overthrown and replaced, and I guess maybe it's impossible to create a perfect government, and there's always going to be malcontents, and after a while the malcontents will win and something else will be tried. I think that maybe there was a period in the history of the U.S. where we had thought that we achieved some kind of balance or stasis or something that was going to last forever. Maybe in the 50s, I don't know. You know, you read about that stuff and you think that maybe people believe that. But it's perfectly clear to me that there are a lot of problems in every form of government, and we're going to continue experimenting and trying new forms of government until we find one that's perfect, which will never happen. So
Right.
Will there be a developed market collapse? Sure there will. I don't know when it'll happen, but sooner or later, probably, yeah.
That's scary. Philip Kotler
Yeah.
recently, who's an economist by
Oh,
training.
a smart guy you were talking to. You don't only
Yeah.
talk to bozos like me. You talk to smart people, too.
I like opinions from everywhere. From everywhere.
Yeah.
He's been writing about capitalism.
Yeah.
He's shifted his focus from marketing for a little bit
Mm-hmm.
to capitalism. And it talks about, there's a new book, which I have, it's on order, I haven't gotten
Mm-hmm.
it yet, Confronting Capitalism. But my concern is that capitalism is breaking down too.
Yeah.
as these companies continue to get bigger, if you go back to the old days, right? Local mom and pop store. I could sell goods to people, my neighbors, essentially, the people I go to church with and things like that. And if I was a schmuck, people would just stop giving me business.
Right.
But I feel like as, mom and pops got bigger and bigger, and now it's, Walmart or Target or wherever you go, the people making decisions about how they treat people are so far removed from the people that they actually serve.
And what choice do you have? If I think Comcast is a bunch of schmucks, what choice do I have in getting my cable? I have no choice. If I think Bank of America is a bunch of schmucks, so then I go to another bank that's also a bunch of schmucks. What choice do I have in airlines, right? What's the difference between the United Schmucks and the American Schmucks? There's no difference. So you don't have a choice. They treat you like crap. And what choice do you have? You have none. And that's the problem that's one of the problems with consolidation. There are so many industries that have been consolidated that service is not even, they pretend your call is very important to us, right? And then you sit there for 45 minutes waiting for a human being to get on the line. It's all bullshit.
I think this is where marketers, we can bring it back, I guess, a little bit. Marketers develop and define better experiences for their customers.
Yeah, and the sad part is that too many of them don't have to. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to their businesses. It's so concentrated that they know that their competition is just as bad as they are. So why go out of your way? Why put more people on the call centers? If everyone's going to wait 10 or 15 minutes to talk to a human being, whether it's our call center or someone else's call center, who cares? They don't care. They give a lot of lip service to listening to the consumer and consumer this, but they don't follow through. Any marketer who is willing to really follow through on customer service has a tremendous advantage these days. But there are so few of them who do anything but give it lip service.
It's true. But I think experience, customer service, whatever you want to call it, just having empathy for people again.
Yeah. To me, the biggest frustration is when I do a lot of traveling and trying to book something or change a reservation. It's at least an hour. But before I get the right person on the line, before someone picks up at an airline, there are certain things you can do online. But when you're making complicated travel arrangements, it's impossible. When you have 3 or 4 stops and you need to change one, and it takes me at least an hour and sometimes 2 hours to do something that I ought to be able to do in 5 minutes. And anytime I try to reach my insurance company, try to reach any financial institution, try to reach any telecom entity, it's impossible. They make it so difficult. And I understand they have certain restrictions on how much they can spend on customer service, but at least try. At least try to do it a little better. It's discouraging.
I know. Well, for marketers out there, focus on experience.
Yes,
please.
Very important.
Please.
Very important.
I was just going to take us on another topic, which is near and dear to my heart, is income inequality.
Yeah.
I think it's our modern day plague. I mean, you can see it everywhere. You see it in global conflict, Kim Jong-un, everywhere.
The big push-pull in democratic societies, there are 2 different philosophical points of view that are in conflict, and they are equality and liberty. They are in conflict. Equality wants everyone to be fairly treated and to have a fairness about them. And liberty wants us each to be free and to do exactly as we choose. And these 2 things are in conflict. And right now, the idea of liberty is ascendant over the idea of equality. And so what we're getting is supermassive income inequality, and if you're a libertarian, you say, well, that's what liberty is about, the ability to earn as much as you want and the ability to do exactly what you want with what you earn. And, there's an argument there. But if you're an equalitarian, you say, but the massive difference between what some people have and what other people have puts the whole system in danger. And I think it does put the whole system in danger. As I was talking about before, sooner or later, all governments get overthrown and replaced. And if we continue down this path of income inequality, where people who work hard can't earn enough money to live a decent life, it ain't going to last very long. People aren't not going to put up with this very much longer. You never know what's going to spark something like this. It can change in 2 hours. Something could happen to spark something in no time. We need to be more cognizant of this. I don't know what the answers are. I'm just a stupid copywriter. But there has to be some way for us to build a society in which everyone has a reasonable chance, everyone who's willing to work hard has a reasonable chance to live a good life. Here in the Bay Area where I am, it's so ridiculously expensive. You have to make $100,000 now to live in San Francisco. Otherwise, you can't afford to live in the city. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy for our society, and I worry a lot. But from a marketer's perspective, I mean, whole markets are drying up as people can't afford to buy things.
Yeah, and small businesses, it's hard to survive in a small business now. I mean, when I grew up in New York City. Every corner had a luncheonette, and there was a shoe store, and there was a men's clothing store. They've all disappeared. It doesn't exist anymore. It's all in the hands of category killers. It's all McDonald's and department stores, and now it's Amazon. I just don't like what's happening in the consolidation. And one of the factors that contributes to this is the unfair advantage that these huge consolidated industries have in Washington. The tax, they find ways to move their money offshore so they're not paying taxes on money earned in the States. And the little guy who's trying to run a candy store doesn't have anyone in Washington lobbying for him. When I had my agency, we had a small agency by global standards. And, our tax burden, I'll bet you that our effective tax rate was 10% of WPP's effective tax rate. I don't know that for a fact, but I'll bet on it. There are just so many advantages that the big have over the small. It needs to be fixed. I sound like some kind of communist here, don't I?
Well, you do live in San Francisco.
I'm actually a fairly conservative person when it comes to economics. But this stuff is so unfair. I don't see how anyone can justify a lot of it.
Well, and I thought it was interesting enough to talk about today because, to your point, I've seen people, Buffett has talked about this before, but even people like Ray Dalio, who runs Bridgewater Associates, the largest hedge fund in the world. I've listened to a recent interview with him. He's worried about income inequality.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any longer a blue or a red issue. It's an everybody issue. Yeah. Last time we talked, I asked you about the future of marketing might look like and
what did I say?
I think you said it was going to be horrible. It was more of the same, I think was exactly
more
what
of
you
the
said.
Same, only worse is probably what I said.
Yes.
I'm really bad. I don't like talking about the future. I find people who talk about the future to mainly be full of crap. I think they talk about the future because the future is the only place you can't be fact-checked, right?
Right.
Everything you say about the future, who knows? So you can get away with anything. The future of marketing, I don't know what's going to happen 10 minutes from now. So to talk about the future of marketing, I'm just bloviating. But I would say, I think it's going to be totalitarianism. They're going to know everything of the marketing industry is going to know everything about us. It's not going to be healthy. And there's no way that it's not going to lead to appalling mischief sometime soon if we're not careful. We saw it in the recent election with Facebook and the Russian government interfering in our... And what's that based on? It's based on tracking. It's based on them knowing who to reach with what message based on individual beliefs, which they should have no access to. What right does Facebook have to know what our political beliefs are? But they know.
Right.
They know everything about us. There's a remarkable article in The Guardian like 2 weeks ago. A woman who went in the UK, the EU has a rule that you're entitled to know what data marketers and online media are collecting about you. No one ever does it, and they make it very hard for you to find this out. But this writer decided she was going to find it out. So she hired like a public interest lawyer and an advocate, and they went to Tinder to find out what information they had on her, okay? You know what she got back? 800 pages.
Holy moly.
That's War and Peace, right?
Yeah.
800 pages they had on her. Can you imagine what Facebook and Google have on us? Can you imagine if Tinder had 800 pages? It's mind-blowing. It's beyond belief.
We don't need psychologists anymore. We just go to Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll tell us what we're thinking.
Yep. Yeah, she said, Tinder knows more about me than I know. Yeah, and it's true.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you going off script with me today, and thank you so much for coming back on the show.
My pleasure, Alan. It's always great to talk to you. You have a terrific show, and keep it up.
Marketing Today is brought to you by Atomic. Atomic focuses on unleashing the growth potential for clients we serve. Atomic is a strategic consultancy specializing in business, marketing, brand, and innovation. Our singular goal is to help you accelerate your efforts with the right mix of expertise, analysis, and creativity. Check us out at atomic.com. ATOMCK.com. Hi, it's Alan again. Marketing Today was created and produced by me, with project management by Sarah Williams, audio production by Aaron Campbell, writing and editing by Kevin Greeley, social media support by Megan Woods, art and graphic design by Sarah Dell. If you're new to Marketing Today, please feel free to write us a review on iTunes or your favorite listening platform. Don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends and colleagues about the show. We love to hear from listeners at info@atomic, ATOMCK.com. I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today.